Good morning.
Lucy, thanks for joining the call.
Hi, Char. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time. We're looking forward to hearing your presentation. We usually start with just a few announcements and project updates, so it doesn't take more than 10 minutes or so, probably less, and then we'll hand it over to you for the
Yeah,
presentation.
not a problem. Whenever you're ready, I'm here.
Awesome.
You can hear me fine, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Hey, Shar, sorry I'm late. Could you do me a favor? I have to drop off at the half hour. Could you make Steven a co-host just in case?
Yes. I will do that.
Thank you. All right.
Okay.
Now you're good
Awesome.
to go.
Thanks. Thank you. Let's see. Welcome everyone to the Wallet Interoperability Special Interest Group for February 12th, 2025. Today on the agenda, we will hear about the California MDL Community Hackathons from Lucy Yang. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really looking forward to that. We are recording this call. It'll be posted right here on the meeting page later today. We're following the Linux Foundation antitrust policy and the Open Wallet Foundation Code of Conduct. Looking ahead to next week, we will hear a presentation about the Swiss EID technology stack and interoperability from Michelle Saley. So looking forward to that as well. Let's see, are there any announcements before we get started? Yes, Sean.
Yeah, I just left a couple of notes at the bottom of the agenda wiki page, and for those notes to work, you have to actually hit update in the wiki. So that would be nice. Apologies. It is now updated. They're not, hey, don't forget, DICE is coming up in March. If you're going, connect with us in the Discord channel. We're trying to coordinate who's going and also what are the topics we want to bring. And the same with IW. If you're going to go to IW this year, April 8th through 10 in Mountain View, let us know. And then we have a newsletter once a month. We will not do it more than that. But the next one goes out, I believe, next week. And that was it for housekeeping. Thanks, Shar.
Thanks. Thank you so much. And I'll send out this wiki link if you'd like to access any of the links or put your name on the attendees list. Let's see. In terms of project updates, Stephen, would you like to share about Akapai?
Sure. We have been successful in the first major move of a deprecated protocol from the core to a plugin. The agent test harness that we use was tweaked, and I used that pretty nicely. It just an adjustment to the startup parameters of Akapai when running in the test harness, so that it referenced the plugin versus just having it in core, so the connections protocol, and that ran yesterday perfectly. So I was quite pleased with that. All of the tests that had been failing as a result of not having the connections protocol in, which we just removed from the core, worked and ran. So good to see. We'll now remove another couple of protocols from Akapai core, and then we'll get a breaking change release that announces the deprecated protocols from Aries interop profile 1 removed, and added the new set added as plugins. So anyone still using those protocols still has access to them. They just aren't in the core, which cleans up, removes technical debt. Also, lots of good discussions happening within Akapai on other adjustments, things like changing the logging within it to make it easier to trace specific scenarios and things like that. So lots of good progress being made. We'll have a release relatively soon. We're in a good stable state right now, and we'll look to have a release soon. The other thing that's going on, as mentioned previously, is the addition of did WebVH. We now have a method defined for how an on-creds works with did WebVH, how it's implemented in Akapai, and we will have a demo tomorrow that's scheduled that shows the full flow with revocation. We're also using Akrita to do some load testing on it to verify revocation, rotation, creation of new revocation registries and things like that. So lots of cool progress being made.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for those updates. Let's see, any updates on Credo, Bifold, Owl? Anybody would like to
We'll
share?
have the OWL, which is short for Open Wallet Lab, testing labs, tomorrow, meeting at 1 hour from now, 8 Pacific, 5 Central Europe. Excuse me. And we'll be talking about progress on the various OWL products, but also talking about other test suites out in the world and which ones we should be using and which ones we can learn from. So looking at some of the supply chain traceability test suites, the VC Playground, other test suites that are out there and that we can take advantage of. So that's it's on the Linux Foundation, Open Wallet Foundation dashboard of meetings, and I put a notice on the Discord channel for it today in the OWL Discord channel on Open Wallet Foundation. Let people know about that meeting. So there you go.
Thanks for those updates. Let's see, any other project updates or general announcements before we get started? All right, with that, I will pass it over to you, Lucy, for your presentation. Thanks. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us.
Thank you for having me. We have a small group. That's great. Actually, we can make it more interactive, but let me see, I can just pulling up my screen. Give me a sec. Okay, this is my slides. Okay, great. So I'm not sure if I've met everyone from on this call before, but first of all, I mean, we're going to talk about CA MDL community hackathons, but I'm not representing California DMV on this call. I'm representing myself and my company. We are a consultant for the California DMV. So in case we haven't met before, so just a little bit, and you probably know my business partner Kalia pretty well. She co-founded that the Internet Identity Workshop. So I work with her we have a consultancy really built around her name, called Identity Women in Business. And the reason why we're working on California MDL Community Hackathon is because California is a client of ours. And also before we get into the hackathons, just want to give you an idea what my role. And as you can see, I'm not a technical person. I mostly come from a kind of business background, but I've been working in digital identity for about 6-7 years, starting end of in 2019. So it's been quite a long time, and being working and collaborating with the community, and since the beginning of 2020, through a lot of the COVID initiatives, and my work covers quite a wide range of technical related projects, for example, trust registries and And our consulting firm started at the end of 2021. And our focus, our focus have pretty much, shifting quite a bit until very recently. We have a kind of a clear, like last year, we have a clear kind of focus on what is the best way for us as a small consultancy to contribute to the community and the ecosystem. So what we particularly specialize in is ecosystem alignment building, particularly among some complex ecosystem that have complex and diverse stakeholders. So that's the reason why California DMV is a really kind of it's a good example of the kind of clients we work with, because they have the MDL ecosystem is pretty huge, not just within the United States, but just globally. And as you can see here, we work with quite a range of organizations, pretty much everyone, like we mentioned, every type of organization we mentioned here, like on the slide, we worked with, one or two of them. So for us to understand what it means, to actually support different kind of ecosystem. So today, like I'm going to share about like part of some of our work with California and DV, particularly the California DMV, the MDL community hackathons. That's kind of a way of how we help. That's kind of like example of how like we help kind of large ecosystem build kind of alignment and also facilitate the adoption of standards and acceptance of standards. So that's kind of like the background where I'm coming in. I have prepared some of the related technical information. I know this group is pretty kind of like tech, kind of like driven, and you work on the interoperability aspects of wallet. So I have some information prepared. But since we have a small group today, before I get started talking about the hackathons and our learnings, I would love to hear, from all of you what specific kind of topics about the hackathons you're interested in learning about. And I can definitely address some of the technical aspects, but everything I can share on this call is, it's somewhat already public information, but I can't, it's kind of like probably hard to put everything together. So I'm definitely happy to share whatever I can share on the technical side. And as well as the hackathon organization, how to organize hackathons and how we, achieve our goals through the hackathons. But anyways, I want to open the floor kind of like before I dive into the few things I prepared and to see what are on top of your mind, what you want to learn.
For me, that what you just went over. So the two things that I had in mind were the hackathons enable interoperability. So how you did that, what mechanisms you use. So that's good. That would be really good. And then the other is also about California MDL itself. So a little bit of background on how it's getting used and what you learned about with it. It doesn't have to be at the technical level. The business level is very helpful in how it's moving forward, how accepted it's been, other aspects of California MDL itself. So that's what I'm looking for.
Okay, great. Anyone else?
I definitely second that. Yeah, super curious for to hear about your experiences and what you learned organizing the hackathons, what they looked like, and then overview of the MDL project, how it's being implemented, what that is looking like in California. So looking forward to it.
Okay, great. I'm not monitoring chat. I'm opening chat. If anyone have any questions, feel free kind of like to interrupt me or just put a question in the chat. I'm actively looking at the chat as well. So thank you for the questions. I think what I will start by providing a little bit context of the California mobile driver's license, which which will lead to why we're doing the hackathon. So California launched the MDL program as kind of a pilot program. So if any, let me see. So let me see. California. Let's do California MDL. See, so California launched the MDL program as a pilot program, and in summer 2023, so it was about a year and a half ago. So the pilot, the size of the pilot is limited up to 1.5 million unique users of a mobile driver's license of California. So that's kind of the scope of the pilot. And so and that pilot was launched in 2023 summer, and then so that's kind of pretty much how everything started. I think what this probably matters to this community, like the unique thing about California mobile driver's license is implement two standards. Because when we're talking about MDL, like what came to our mind is only with ISO MDL, and that's the standard. But actually, California implement both the ISO MDL standard and the verifiable credential standards, particularly 1.1 VC 1.1. That's the data model. So California is the only state. I'm not sure if any even other countries are implementing kind of like the two standards in parallel, but at least, so far what I know is California is the only state, or at least the first state, that implementing both standards at the same time. So that's pretty much like, live since, the launch of the pilot. And since the launch of the California DMV until like most recently, we did the public briefing of the hackathon to provide kind of like highlights and review of the hackathons. That's the pilot has reached 1.6 million. That's not unique. That's like the all like the driver's license have been issued, because if you're a Californian, you can use different devices to get different to get your driver's license. So it's like, one person can have like, two mobile driver's license on different devices. So that's the reason why like the number of driver's license issued is, that number is different from like the unique number of, like Californians that got a mobile driver's license. So by the time of our public briefing in January, that number should be somewhere around 1 million. So I have the slides here, which is this is a public briefing that we did on January 10th. We like California DMV did on January 10th. So that's where the number, like the most recent kind of number I have. I will share this slides with you, so we will get a better kind of idea of the program. But just wanted to give you an idea that there's like the pilot, and there's a limit of like how many people the pilot can reach, and where we're kind of roughly at today. And so that's kind of a high level. And from a technical point of view, as I mentioned, there are two kind of tracks in parallel. I think one significant event that I want to mention is this the past summer, like Apple and Google. So Apple and Google a California MDL was launched into Apple and Google Wallet in last summer. So that's 2024. So that is pretty much right before the hackathon. So that's kind of a two kind of like releases, really kind of like also boost the number of driver's licenses issued since those two events. So like the 1.56 million total like license, number of license and the 1 million unique users are like the numbers, pretty much after that launch. A few months after the launch of California mobile driver's license into the Apple and Google Wallet. So currently, if you're a Californian resident, right, you are able to use either the California DMV wallet, which you can see, on the screen. So this is like a wallet you can download. Anyone can download it, I think, but if you're not a Californian, a resident, you won't be able to get your mobile driver's license, obviously. And then other than the DMV wallet, a CADMV wallet, which was launched in summer 2023, then there's the two Apple and Google wallet launch happened like in summer last year, 2024. So that's kind of like some of the major events that happen. Just want to see if any questions about what I've said so far. Okay, great. So going back to the hackathon, so I started working with the California. I think my company started working with California like in 2023, and I was pulling into the project as a special advisor to the CADMV early last year, 2024. So that's in a few months after the launch of the CADMV wallet, which is obviously especially in the custom wallet for the California that launched by the California DMV, and so the goal is, I was pulled in part of like the kind of like when I come in, right, there's already kind of like an idea about a hackathon. So that's kind of like, one of my first kind of tasks of working with the DMV. So now like moving forward, what is a hackathon? So I'm a business person. I've always, I've been in the technical community for a long time and been hearing about word hackathons very often, but I haven't, by that point, when I was, brought in to work on the hackathon, I hadn't myself participated in one. But I do have an idea was a hackathon. So like in kind of like so in our conversation with people about hackathons, what I hear most is like a bunch of technical people coming together trying to solve a problem, and there's they work kind of within a short period of time and do some hacking, develop some code and prototype or some in a POC, and to try to demonstrate how to solve a problem, right, where there's an opportunity they can explore. And that's kind of like what I heard, what my understanding what a hackathon is. So when I was brought in and like, let's do a hackathon, and what is actually the problem we're trying to solve there. And so that's kind of like the question I had, right? And then like I realized what we're trying to achieve at the with the California MDL is a little bit different from what a conventional hackathon would be, because there's no kind of like a one kind of a challenge. There is one challenge, but there's no kind of like, oh, there's kind of like a client to work kind of a host organizer situation that there's one kind of specific use case that a host want to address, and then through a hackathon and trying to bring different people to have different ideas to address. It's not in that situation. So what is actually the goal of California MDL community hackathons? So I'll switch over a bit to the slides to give you kind of more the accurate information. What is the goals of the hackathon? So the objectives is really further acceptance and use of California MDL, because by after a few months into the launch of MDL, right, and there are, I think that at that point, some of the TSAs at the airport already kind of start accepting MDLs. So really the goal is, if you look at the public roadmap the DMV has shared in public. So there's a roadmap of starting with some kind of initial use cases and gradually kind of get to like cross-industry engagement. Is really kind of like a roadmap of how to keep increase the use of the acceptance of MDL, because the point of having investing in a technology is, at the end of the day, especially from a government point of view, how to benefit, like how to spend tax dollars in a way that really benefits the Californians and Californian business at large, right? So that's kind of like the role, and also like part of the reason why I'm doing the pilot, and my understanding is just really see how, what is the potential, right, of MDL, and how, to what extent they can bring value to like both individual Californians and a Californian business. So that's kind of like the core of, the hackathon is, it's not like there's a one specific use cases that the California DMV and want, like companies to address, but more so how to increase, right, accelerate the acceptance and the use of California mobile driver's license. So that's kind of like the goal of the hackathon. So very clear goals, and also we break it down into some of the kind of a smaller goals, right? Help relying party organizations and their partners incorporate MDLs into their user experiences. I really kind of like a focus emphasizing the relying party organizations, like whoever are already have like a verifier with verification use cases, right? How they can incorporate the MDL into their existing user experience, right? So and also and also we're thinking about how it's really hard, because it's really hard to build kind of like partnerships with each in different organizations who have a relying party use case. So the hackathon is also a way that how we can can mobilize our resources in a way that can, provide the support needed, and the support relying party needed, right, within a short period of time, to help enable some of them to build on their existing use cases, right? That's kind of like the core of the hackathon, the main objective. And obviously, like we expect a lot of developers get involved in the hackathon, because at the end of the day, there are codes that need to be developed, right? There are things that need to be demonstrated. So really empower developers, right? Where like the engineering organization work within a company to really kind of walk away with use cases that are executive ready, because we're not expecting that anything that is developed going to go production right away. It's just really a way of demonstrating the value, what value could potentially it could generate, right? But really having something that is working to demonstrate within an organization, so that the executive level can really see, okay, this makes sense, right? And the third, Stephen, you have a question?
I was wondering is there any guidelines around in these objectives, that the, code be open source or anything like that? Like, is there any limits on that for the participants, or is that totally open?
We don't have any thing. No, yeah, I will get to the requirements, but not quite so, because if you think about, like, you know, the big pool of relying parties, right? They probably already have the existing kind of proprietary software that they're working somewhere that, you know, using
Yeah.
identity IDVs, right? We're using, you know, verifying physical cards, right? The idea is really how to add MDL as an alternative, right, to those existing kind of user flows. And obviously some of the there are going to be new use cases because of the MDLs can enable. So we're not preventing any of that, but just in general, like, we're encouraging whoever, right, can use really use the MDL is for some real world scenarios is the main thing we want, you know, we want from the teams.
Excellent. Okay, thank you.
But the tooling, part of the tooling that we provide, which I will get to that, you know, we use some of the open wallet tooling, and also there's some open source code provided by California DMV that could be used by the teams and participants. That part is open source. Okay, and then the next one is, like, we also want to welcome government and civil society and other, you know, observers, right? Because this is identity, especially and person identity of a person is something that's kind of relevant to pretty much all of us, right? Like, having the involvement of government, and especially when the government is is a co-host, right, of the event, involving more other relevant government agencies as well as the civil society and other, you know, relevant stakeholders, something that we want to achieve, so everyone can be part of the kind of like the conversations, really see what the challenges, because to address some of the challenges is not just like a developer's job to do it. So that's kind of like the third kind of a objective, and the last one would be, like, really how we create a safe space, because a lot of these, you know, these kind of use cases are early on, right? And we, you know, early on in the sense that, you know, even if the tech is working doesn't mean that it can be in production, like, you know, very, very soon. So really how to create a safe space for digital identity community to support relying party adoption, right, across platform standards. And one thing I want to, you know, here, like, as you can probably see, like, the CADMV is just a co-host, for the hackathon. And the OpenID Foundation was involved, and then, like, you know, quite early on. That's partially because, you know, Gail Hodges, who is the executive director of OpenID, is also an advisor to the DMV. So, like, we kind of, the two of us, like, we kind of partnered on really, you know, to co-designing and co-leading this effort. And she is in an instrumental part, and also OpenID provided really critical help and support to the event. So with these objectives, and what I'm going to get to is pretty much the criteria we have, like, for the, because what we have a really clear goal is really enable you know, further acceptance, adoption of California DMV, and right, we want to see it really, you know, being used in the real world. And we know that it's not going to be any use case, there won't be any kind of promise it will be go production right away, but at least we're like, we want to look for use cases that has that potential, right? So, like, we have, like, this kind of a criteria that we published, right? We, you know, we make pretty open and transparent at the very beginning. So we're looking for real world use cases that have potential to go from hackathon to full production in the next 3 to 12 months, right? There's no kind of obligations that, you know, if anyone participate, you have to do it, but this is really kind of like the aspiration for how we, you know, where we spend resources, and how we to find who we should reach out to, and also who we will, you know, let into the hackathon, because we do have limited spots, right? So, like, there are a few questions we ask the hackathon applicants, the applications. You know, this is pretty much, you're looking at the questions that we put into the application form. So it's already a real world needs that can benefit from MDLs, right? And who will be the relying parties of CMDLs, and how will MDL be used and leveraged in the use case, and what will be the impact of the use case, right? How, you know, and also variability to be operational within the organization in the next kind of a year or so. So these are the questions all, like, the teams answered in their application. And that's also, like, the kind of the criteria we used to kind of evaluate whether we want to admit the team into the hackathon. So that's I'm saying there's something. Should I? Oh, yeah, there's a slide I'll share about the outcome, and also this is the tracks that we publish. So they're only, so there are, you know, we want to provide some kind of a scope on the technical side, so like people know what are like the tools that are available, and also what are, because the even like the California DMV wallet, there are certain things, certain functionalities that is is ready, and certain functions that is not. So what you're looking at, like the 4 tracks that we make kind of like we publish at the very beginning. So in the end, actually, so the track 1 and track 2 are the ones that we have sufficient tooling. So like the in-person presentation, the SOMDL one, we included the actually, let me share another screen, it'll give you a better idea of what we have. Stop sharing the other screen. Let me see. Okay. Get my ID Slack. You can see my my Slack.
Yep. We can see
Okay,
that.
great. So this is so we because due to thanks to the partnership with OpenID Foundation, so we are able to leverage their public Slack. So we have a Slack channel that's on OpenID, and so we set up this kind of a page to really kind of as what are like the resources available. So you're looking at the tool, so the tool and the different tracks we have, right? So the track 1 and track 2 are where we have like, you know, resources, like relatively sufficient resources for teams to leverage. So the first in-person presentation, that's the -5 one. So we can, for example, like the Open Wallet Identity Credential Project is one of the things we leverage, and Google was super helpful in terms of supporting some of the teams who are using this tooling. And we also have some, we also have the NIST mobile reader. That's an open source code that we have. And also we have some vendor tooling available there, which is only kind of available upon request. So, and the track 2 is an online presentation and issuance. We didn't end up having the issuance part of it, but the OpenID, like the OpenID for the presentation part, that's where we have like our own open source code. So that's something I'll share the link of the code in my slide, so you will be able to have the link. So this is the track where we provide relatively sufficient tooling. And the track 3 and track 4, that's kind of exploratory track, because by the time of the hackathon, we didn't have the -7 capability ready. So that's why, you know, we were like, because we know some of the participants, they already have the -7 kind of like, you know, capability in their kind of like, you know, tool in their tooling. So that's why we're like, okay, so these are the ones we don't know where we'll be at. So we made it exploratory track. If any one of them they want to show themselves, you know, they can do it, but you know, we want to be transparent that we were not, you know, some of the tooling were not available, some of the abilities that were not available at the point in time. But these are like the kind of like the scope from a technical point of view, like what like participants can, you know, can do for the hackathons. So that's kind of the I think relevant information I want to share. Okay, stop. Let's switch back to the to this one. Okay, so this is like the kind of tracks and the toolings that we have provided to the hackathons. I'll just show you. Okay, so yes, this is now like pretty much to give you an idea. Like we had 2 events. So one event is the private sector event, another one is a public sector event. And this is, you know, the reason why we had 2 events is like there are like the public sector use case and private sector, even though they're quite interconnected, some of them quite interconnected, we do want, from a location point of view, is a lot easier especially for the California state agencies, like if we do it in Sacramento. But for the rest, you know, the private sector, Mountain View, like, you know, Bay Area is a lot easier. So like from location point of view, separated. And also some of the public sector agencies is actually quite rare. Actually, I learned that it's to have some kind of event, you know, the kind of a hackathon, rather, you know, some public facing hackathon for public sector, you know, agencies. That's the reason why we also want to give them kind of a safe space, like, you know, focusing on public sector kind of, you know, agencies, like collaboration and engagement. So we also want to give them a safe space that they feel comfortable, sharing. That's also another reason why we kind of separate, have a private sector event and have a public sector event. So you can see the private sector event actually happened at the Computer History Museum, where IAW, where we do IAW, where IAW happens, every time. So for each of the event, we have like around like 10 to 15 teams, right? Exactly, like the number is, it's 15 teams of over 50 plus participants from 20 working nations. So that's like the private sector event. So we allow different working nations to team up. So because it's not just about kind of like companies. It's less so about companies really trying to to do sales kind of thing. It's more about really demonstrating like the real use of MDL. So whether you're one working nation or two working nation, that they can team up. And so that's kind of like the participants on the private sector event side. And if you look at the actual participants, right, like the five teams are actually relying parties themselves. And 5 like vendors supporting relying parties, 5 vendors that actually come with relying party use cases that kind of endorsed by their clients. And we also have 1 vendor like from Mexico that is kind of focusing more on like the cross-border international collaboration, that the cross-border identity verification. And other than like the participants, the actual teams who participated, we have over 50 plus observers for the private sector event. So it was quite a successful event. Like I think our kind of like the attendance rate is like 98%, if I remember correctly. So pretty much most people signed up that showed up, right? That's kind of like the kind of the turnout of the event. On the public sector side, we have like 12 teams of 40 plus participants from 20 working nations. And so the unique thing about these kind of like a little bit different from the private sector events, for each participating team of the public sector event, each team needs some participants are kind of teams are led by vendors, but it's a requirement that every team needs to have a kind of a public sector agency as a use case sponsor. So some of the public agencies, for example, some of the some of the public agencies are really attend themselves, or they are leading. They're the only, they don't have a vendor that come with them. For example, California, oh my God, let's look at the let's look at the list. Yes, we have, for example, like if you look at the California Office of Emergency Services, right, they come by themselves and their own team. The California Office in Data Innovation, they also come by themselves. And as you can see, some of the agencies, they don't have a vendor that come with them, but the idea is every team needs to have a public agency that actually is a use case sponsor that can speak to the validity or like the potential of the use case, right? So that's what the hardcore requirement. No, if you're just a vendor, you're not able to attend. So that's kind of like the very what the commitment we the DMV and also like the organizer have put into to make sure that we're really looking into the real world use cases. And if you look at the participants from the private sector use cases, right? So the wide range of sectors, right? Telco use cases. Some of the use cases, it doesn't have to be telco. For example, if you're just doing identity verification for account creation, it definitely could be other. It could be other sectors as well. But we ask the participating works to really to show a real world client, right? They're actually endorsing where they're working with, and that's the requirement. So that's why even some of the use cases itself is quite generic, but there's some kind of there's some sector kind of affiliation because the clients work that is sponsoring the use case. So you can see there's a wide range of sectors that are involved, and some of the companies, and also you can look at the companies there are, for example, like US Bank, they're really kind of the bank coming in without, they didn't come in with a vendor, they come in by themselves. There are some quite large and small kind of players that participated. So it's really a kind of a good range of different kind of companies. You can see like that really learned like the different challenges, right? Like each type of organization has when it comes to implement a mobile driver's license. So you will have access to all this information. So I'll share the link later so you can dig in a little bit more afterwards. Let me see what use cases. Yes, lastly, the process, right? So we have a kind of a fairly lightweight application and selection process. If you look at the questions I shared in the earlier slides, that's pretty much the questions they answered. And sometimes some of the teams that we had to kind of like go back and forth just make sure that we get clarity of the use cases, and making sure that there is kind of real world use cases where there is a kind of a use case sponsor that is supporting it. And the application selection is quite straightforward. We do have a little bit more teams for the private sector event than what we can accommodate. So we didn't accommodate everyone, but we try, like 15 teams is pretty much like the maximum we can accommodate for that event. And but yeah, there are also there are a few there. I think we accommodate everyone that meet the core criteria, have a real world use cases. We had to say no to a few that actually didn't meet the criteria, but we were able to kind of like to really say yes to everyone who has a real world legitimate use cases that meet the criteria, which is great. And then like after following the application and selection, there was kind of 4-week kind of a preparation period, as you can see earlier on the Slack. That's where we kind of provide them support. So the kind of support we provided, the slides what we did. So there is kind of logistic support that me as kind of the program manager I provided, and also there's in the DMV. So depending the tracks, right? The in-person one, for example, the Google team supported some of the the open wallet, the project code, right? The use of that code, and our DMV like vendor team provided support on the OpenID, on the online presentation where the DMV has an open source code. So that's kind of logistic and technical support. We also have because we have one big thing that we make possible is the test app, is test wallet. So we're able to let the hackathon teams use our UAT environment, like the test app, and also like give them a test credential, so none of them have to use their personal PII. And also some of them, right, are not even based in California. They don't even have a real MDL, so they need that task credential with the dummy data. So those kind of like the main things that we provided during the 4-week hacking period. And also there are, I think in terms of like interoperability and stuff, that's something I'll talk a little bit about later, but that's where, all like the technical, any like small or big technical kind of issues or challenges emerge, which, a lot of them related to kind of interoperability. Let me see anything I want to share. Okay, actually, I've done this part. Now let's switch back to the. Okay, great. So now comes to the learning part. So for the first thing, I know like the learning is my learning, right? In the slides I will share it later. Like you can also see like the learnings, the kind of a DMV. Their views, what learnings and takeaways, but I'm talking about my personal learning from, and also like we as a consulting firm, how we learned from the experience, what we've learned from the experience, and how designing and implementing kind of a stakeholder engagement for ecosystem client, right? The first thing is like resource how we operate in a kind of resource constraints environment, incentivize and the right people and to engage, right? So it's my, this is not just like, I believe this is a situation for a lot of like other ecosystems, like even like, if you look at the open wallet kind of as like more kind of a technical community or ecosystem, we don't always have like the kind of like, whether financial resources or human resources or, technical resources to be able to do like the ideal kind of to get the ideal kind of scenario we want. So it's really how we can operate, especially when like the space we're in is still kind of early stages, right? You don't always have a little bit less or a lot less than what you want to have, but you have a lot you want to achieve, right? So really how to kind of operate kind of an engagement, have an engagement, community engagement, or stakeholder engagement when you have in a resource constrained kind of environment. I think have a very, very clear goal really helps. Really have the goal of we want to see we want to kind of identify those who have a potential to integrate MDL into a real world use cases, right? Having that clear goal really help us design the criteria what are the criteria we have to have in place, right, to make sure that we actually getting the right kind of teams and candidates for the hackathons, right? And also the incentives. So normally when you're talking about hackathon, you think about, oh, what is the prize money, anything. There's no such thing. And to be, in even like when we're, we announced the hackathon, there's like there's nothing mentioning a price or anything. So what we ended up doing is for the public sector event, there's some kind of a recognition, different kind of recognitions. We have a judging panel that kind of like scoring mark, different teams. And for the public sector event, we didn't even have a judging panel. It's really kind of we have an expert panel who asks questions, but at the end of the public sector event, there was kind of a polling of attendee, all the observers that attended in person. So who they like the best, right? There are different categories that we did polling for. That's how we selected kind of a few teams that were recognized for different kind of awards. But at the end of the day, there's no prize money, right? Like why people want to show up. So really, like when we're engaging with the potential participants, we're really trying to understand and also help them make sure participating in this event, we really help them accelerate some of their internal goals, right? What are the business goals that is incorporating MDR really kind of make a difference in the near term for them as a business. So we did some kind of this kind of exercise with a lot of these the applicants, right, to make sure that actually they meet our criteria, and second, they are actually also benefiting from investing in this kind of events, because they have to invest in developer resources, right? Also some of the logistic program managing on their side, and we do have quite some people who flew in for the event, right? Some not just technical people. We do have quite some kind of business people flew in from outside of San Francisco to be part of this event. I really want to make sure that the incentives are really, really clear for them, especially when there's no kind of prize money. And a lot of them, they probably even value more the experience and also the opportunity to really engage with others that are also working on real world use cases. We're learning from each other and also explore opportunities to kind of collaborate. So a lot of them, they really value that. So yes, how to operate in a resource constrained environment, and also how to give the right incentives and help like the participant, help the stakeholders make sure they're also getting value, getting enough value out of it, right? So they don't regret, okay, we spent, we're spending our money and time in the wrong place. And we do have people who pulled out, very, very few. I think probably one team had to pull out because of their different kind of reasons, but it's really like we want to make sure it's really kind of like working for valuable for everyone. And the second one is the tech and standard readiness. So that's what so a lot of like the kind of initial issues, even technical issues, come to me, right? And I can see so there are different kind of scenarios in the technical and in the technical kind of aspects. So some of the teams, they don't have their existing, verifier or anything. So they pretty much just come in and they're like, okay, they want to use some tooling provided by the organizers, so they will gain the ability of verifying California mobile driver's license. So that's where they can use either like for in-person use cases, they can definitely use the open wallet, the code, and some of them they did, and also we had that online kind of presentation, like open source code for them, right? That was used by a lot of like the participant, but some participants who are more kind of mature or who do have like their own kind of wallet and their verifiers, and we couldn't accommodate any of their own wallets, but some of them, they do have verifiers that they want to use, because at the end of the day, really using their existing verifiers, right, adding the California MDL capabilities into it is something that makes most sense for them from really kind of production point of view. So that's when I'm going to share another thing that I prepared here. Let's see. So what we do, so in that scenario, am I looking at the right document? Yes, I think so. So you're looking at the PDF document, right?
Yep, the CADMB
Okay.
wallet credential profile PDF.
Okay, great. So this is pretty much this is the credential profile, right? That the DM at least at the point of the time for the hackathon, that's the credential profile for the CADMB wallet. So for those who actually have a verifier themselves, want to try to use their own verifier for the hackathon, so that's kind of, we provide them so this profile, so they know what the credential format, right, we're using, and also the proofs that is the CADMB is using. And so this, what else is happening here? And yeah, the identifiers, right, they're using, and also we have a separate document that provide them the UAT cert, that the public key, so they can use for the verification of the test credential. So, but these are the identifiers, the claims, and yes, and also like the requesting MDL, right, as the verifiable credential. So this is, I think at the point of time, like the open OID for VP, the 20, I think 21 is already there. So some of them are, their verifier app is using 21, but we are using 20. So I'm trying to kind of like, say there's some kind of like incompatibility, that happens. That's something that we have to resolve from an interoperability point of view, but we did provide this document to those who are using their own verifier app, and also provide support to the team so they can, try to resolve some of these kind of like small difference or small or big differences in their existing applications. And also some of the teams, they build on some other people's software, so that means like the vendor also needs to be involved to address some of the differences. So this is one kind of a tool that we provided. And another thing, just give you a quick idea. So for the task credentials, which I mentioned, we do have a process where we have how you request a task credential, you add it to Google or Apple testing groups, and also how we offer kind of QR code for them to provision a test credential into their wallet. So like this is like the UAT cert that we also. Oh, sorry, you're not actually looking at this document. Sorry, this. Okay. Sharing. Okay, so this is the test document, separate kind of a technical related document that we provided them. So how they can set up their test credentials and test a DMB wallet. We provided them. So yeah, so it's as I mentioned earlier, so we didn't get quite, because the participants can only use the DMB wallet to do for the task credential. So like they won't be able to kind of test an interop of their wallet with kind of a DMB verifier. That's not the scenario. It's just really how they use the test wallet provided by the DMB, and how to kind of get the verifier app working, where how incorporating their the verifier kind of like app, that code, like piece of code we provided to them in open source, so they can have that into their existing applications. So I can show you very, very quickly the verifier app, the code we have. But I think just to wrap up on this point, attack and standard readiness is, it's even if they're, like my observation is, right, even if they are, we provided, this profile, and also there are like the code that we provided, for example, this one, this is the open cred credentials platform that we provided for the verification. So even with this thing, different depending on the teams, there are like small, because some of the teams didn't need any help. They just like, okay, I get this open cred platform, we figure it out ourselves. Some of them, and also depending to what extent they want to integrate with their existing system and how their existing system works, there are different level of challenges. And also we do have teams that didn't end up getting all the tech working, but they're still able to demonstrate at least like the kind of the use case flow without the working tech, which is not ideal scenario, but this is like really kind of real world scenario of like some people got it work, some people didn't get it work. So that's the technical side. Going back to my slides. So many slides switching. Okay, let's do this. Sorry, let's do this one. Okay. And my last kind of like learning is like really community and collaboration. I can see like the support from OpenID Foundation. It was really, really, really critical, and not just like potential providing some of the sponsorships, when sponsoring the food and stuff, but also the the community support, like in the use leveraging their OpenID Slack channels, and how some of the OpenID experts, especially like the the DMV wallet and also credential leverage OpenID for verifiable credentials, right? We have a few kind of OpenID members that participated in each of the events, and particularly the second event for the public sector one, we have quite a few of them, and also provide really, really good feedback. And also definitely the collaboration is broader, because we reach out to a wide range of community organizations, and to really help us reach potential candidates and applicants, and as well as for example, like the Open Wallet Foundation code was super helpful, and Google and some of the other kind of Open Wallet members were very supportive, and providing active support to this event. And I would say without like the kind of like the community, that's also the reason why we it's called community hackathons, right? We know that without kind of a thriving active community that want to support this kind of events, we won't be able to be successful. So that's the last thing I would say. Oh, we're almost run out of time. I'm sorry, I should have left more time for questions. Sure, I'm done.
Yeah, I was wondering, how was the experience and the results different between the public and private sector events?
So yes, thank you for reminding me. One thing I forgot to say. So we did for the public sector agencies, because the agencies, as you can see, many of the agencies, they it's not like they have a technical vendor, so they have their own team that work on a wide variety of technical projects within their organization, right? So we say that we encourage them to have the tech working, but we do have some of the teams. We didn't make it a hardcore requirement for them. We're like, if even when they're applying, we tell them that if even if you don't have the tech working, right, if you don't have the capacity at this point, but really show like the flow, even have the concept, have like kind of a like design prototype, really demonstrating like the where in your existing kind of flow that where MDL can add value. That's something that some of the public sector teams did. And I do know that some of the public agencies are really, it's kind of their first time attending this kind of event, which, and also the fact that they're able to attend and also share some of the outcomes with their team really kind of open up like the possibilities and the conversations within the organization of how MDL could be like used even more broadly beyond their own their current use cases, right? You will see like from the slides I share as the use cases they did for the hackathon, but there are a lot more use cases out there, and for the public sector event, a lot of the observers are also from public agencies, right? When they were not able to attend for a variety of reasons, but they came and say, okay, we want to do exactly the same, right? It's just like probably the timing is not right and anything, but they're very clear. It's very clear kind of interest from a wide range of like public agencies, not just from California, because as I showed in my earlier slides, there's like international participants, or federal participants, there state participants, and also municipal participants as well. So county, from municipal and county level.
Interesting, thank you.
Okay.
That was fascinating. Thank you. So many ideas. Working with BC and other organizations or other governments in Canada, I just think so many good ideas came out of that. Thank you so much for doing that.
No problem. Thank you for having me. Hopefully, this is a helpful section. And I do believe the work you're doing, on interop, because as a business person, I believe only when I actually get deep into the implementation and can see the real challenges developers have when they're implementing something for real, and learn better where the technology is. Otherwise, I can always think technology is simple, but actually it's not that simple. It could be simple, but it takes a lot of work to make it simpler and simpler. And that's the work I believe you guys are all doing here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think we're at time, but yeah, really appreciate your presentation and answering our questions and taking the time to join us.
No, I'll follow up on sharing the links and slides with you, so you have that.
Yeah, that would be great. I'll make sure that those all get posted on the meeting page so that people who are watching the recording can follow along as well. So yeah, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Okay, great. And if any further questions, feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much. I think we'll go ahead and call it here. Have a
Okay,
good day,
great.
everyone. Thank
You
you.
too.
Bye.
Bye.